Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of my networking series. Now, before we go layer by layer, let's first answer the big question. What even is the OSI model? The OSI model is like a blueprint that helps us understand how devices talk to each other on a network. It breaks the process down into 7 clear steps or layers so we can see what's happening at each stage of the journey, from your computer all the way to another device on the internet. Each layer has a job. One layer might package the data, another adds an address, another sends it across the wire, and the receiving device goes back up those same layers to unpackage and understand it. Think of it like sending a package. You write a letter, you put it in an envelope, you add an address, the post office carries it, and someone opens it on the other side. So when you hear about the OSI model, just know it's a way to break down what's happening when two devices communicate. It helps us zoom in, troubleshoot, and really understand what's going on beneath the surface. Now that you've got the big picture, let's walk through each layer, starting at the top with the application layer. Now, in this layer is where the user interacts with the network. Maybe you typed in a website, sent a message, or opened an email. At this layer, data gets passed from your app, like a browser, down into the network stack. Protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, DNS, they all live here. This is the beginning of the data's journey. Next, the data gets passed down to the presentation layer. Here's where the data is formatted, compressed, or encrypted. If you're loading a website with HTTPS, the encryption starts right here. This layer makes sure the data is readable by both sender and receiver. And then the data gets passed down to the session layer. Here's where things like login sessions and persistent communication happen. It keeps track of conversations between devices, when they start and when they end. It's like a manager making sure both sides are still talking to the right person. Now we hit one of the most important layers, the transport layer. This is where data gets chopped up into segments, given a sequence number, and prepared for delivery. Protocols like TCP handle this, making sure data gets there in the right order, with none missing. It's like putting each page of a book into a numbered envelope before mailing it. And then, those segments gets passed down into the network layer. And each of those segments gets an IP address, both source and destination. This is where routing happens, and where we figure out how to reach the destination device, even if it's on the other side of the world. This layer uses IP protocol to help move your data from one network to another. And then the data gets passed down to the data link layer. This is where the data gets turned into frames and gets a MAC address for local delivery. It adds a new source and destination MAC address and prepares to deliver the data within the local network, maybe to the next router or switch. And finally, at the physical layer, the data gets turned into ones and zeros. And all the bits are sent over the actual medium. That could be copper wire, fiber optic, or wireless radio waves. This is where electrical pulses or light signals literally travel across the network. Now at this point, the data is flying across the internet, or local network, hopping through routers and switches, following the rules of the TCP/IP model. Now, reversing on the receiving side, the receiving device gets those electrical or optical signals at its physical layer. It starts rebuilding the raw bits into something usable. And it gets passed up to the data link layer, where the layer checks the frame's MAC address to make sure it's meant for this device. If so, it reassembles the data and checks for errors. And then the data gets passed up to the network layer. This is where it checks the destination IP address, confirms it matches this device, and peels off the IP header. Then it passes the packet up the stack. Now the data is in the transport layer, where the segments are reordered using the sequence numbers and any missing data is requested. Once it's all there, the data is stitched back together. Then it gets passed up to the session layer, where it ensures the session is still active and that this data belongs to the correct communication stream. And then it gets passed up to the presentation layer, now the data is decrypted, decompressed, or decoded, depending on how it was originally formatted. And finally, the application layer. This is where it delivers the data to the app, your browser, email client, or chat app. You see the message, web page, or image that was sent. And just like that, the communication is complete. Holy cow, that was a journey. So that's how data moves through the OSI model, layer by layer, from sender to receiver. Even something simple like loading a web page or website goes through this whole process behind the scenes. In the next episode, in episode 3, we're going to break down the TCP/IP model, a simplified 4-layer version of the OSI model that's actually used in real-world internet communication. So stick around, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you there.